Derek Stingley got himself back on the MAC, but did the LSU corner do enough to alleviate all the concerns? We're going to dive deep into that, as well as Drake London, Cam Thomas, and what else comes today here on Locked On NFL Draft.
Let's go.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Tracy, at Ryan Tracy NFL on Twitter. I'm at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And if you're joining us on YouTube, man, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you listen to your podcast, wherever you are, we appreciate that. Leave a review as well. Today, Derek Stingley Jr., a lot of people were waiting on this, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday. We mocked him to the New York Jets at 10 in the league-wide draft. So, Derek Stingley Jr., definitely an intriguing prospect. All right, and we'll talk about kind of some of our thoughts on him, and then we'll get into how he tested and what the testing means for him. But again, a guy that had a tremendous freshman year at LSU.
Yeah.
He was really good. He, had some legit players in the secondary there. But he was a guy who, aside from the game against Alabama that freshman year where he played against Devontae Smith, who went for like 200 yards or whatever Smith did. But aside from that, it was like, well, he was good all year. And he challenged guys, and he was a terrific press man guy. And then the next 2 years happened where just the availability wasn't quite the same, the injuries. And that's why he's having a pro day later like he is right now. And I think after the pro day, we're all feeling a little bit better. You look at how he measured in, 6 foot, 188 pounds. Now, the things that might concern some teams here, the 30 and 5/8 arm length arms. There are some teams that have a threshold of 32. It's like if you're anything less than that, they're just going to cross you off their board. I think it's a little silly, but I'm pretty sure they have their reasons as to why they do that. He tested well in the 40, 4.44, which isn't quite what was originally put out there. I think it originally was like 4.37. I think it was. And they're like, no, these are the official numbers we have on them. So 4.44, which is good. He's fast. And again, coming off of an injury, his 10-yard split wasn't great. Now, we are going to get into your athletic matrix and how that kind of stacks up and things like that. But 156, which is right around average as far as your database goes. 3-cone, really good. 6.98, that's solid, especially, again, guy coming off of a foot injury. And it was explosive, 38.5-inch vertical leap and 10.2 broad. Nothing wrong with that. So the testing turned out well for him as a guy who I'm sure still kind of, working every day to improve his health. But we're going to kind of dive into your athletic matrix that you have on him right now. And here it goes. So walk us through this athletic matrix.
So what the matrix is my algorithms from years of being a performance coach about how you test and what it means when you translate the tests to like functional athleticism on the field. It's not a 1-for-1. Just because somebody runs a 3-cone, that's the most telling thing for an edge, right? But it doesn't mean exactly everything that you're going to have to do on every snap. So every position group has their own kind of feel. And so what you'll see here is the main thing is like the overall matrix, like how good an athlete are they? And that's the overall as you take all the considerations into what they might have to do on any given snap. But for corners, the sub pieces there are how explosive are they? How quickly do they change direction? And I call that short area quickness. Their explosive range, meaning 20 and under, and then their deep range. Those are the three things. And you can see, just like any spider graph, the bigger it gets, the better it is, right? So what we find is that his leaps, while the 38 is nice, the 7-year average, I keep a rolling 7-year average of every draft class, everybody that gets legit timed or measured instance, he's right on par with that, right about even. So that's why you see that it's a little bit under what his deep matrix is and what his explosive range is. So those are clearly his strengths as he turns because of that 4.44. That is the official number. That's actually a little bit better than what the 7-year rolling average is. Everything else.
And real quick, just for context, I know people are hear you talking through it right now. If you want to visualize this, make sure you tune into the YouTube channel so you can see us we have the graphic up on the screen right now.
Absolutely. And you can see all of this at rogueapc.com. That's where we put the athletic matrix and the draft guide and all that kind of stuff. That'll all be rolled into it as we go through. But the interesting thing is, even though he's about average there, the 10 is right on. It's like 1/100th under the 7-year average. So he's right good there, but his long speed takes over and gives him that edge. The thing that doesn't really bode well for him, he's just slight long, even though it is a sub 7 in that 3 cone, the biggest change of direction on the move metric that there is when it's put by itself. When you combine that with all the stop start and the other metrics that we use in the algorithm to put it together, he's actually a little underperforming the 7-year average in that change of direction matrix. But this is a guy that's been injured a couple of times. What did he have? 150 snaps in 2021. So I think that this is a great sign for him going forward. It's just a place to start, I think. Recovery is one thing, and then training back to your full explosiveness, your full change of direction, I think that takes a little bit of time. You can see the ranks at the bottom, and that is in this draft class, that he is number 13 in the overall athletic matrix right now. Just a hair ahead of Sauce Gardner, by the way, who we don't have a complete makeup on yet because we don't have all those numbers from his pro day. But the interesting thing is when you get over to the last metric that's on this in the bottom right-hand corner is the hawk rate. And that's his career production on the ball. That's what's key. That's the difference maker here is he is far and away the number 1 corner in this class at taking the ball away and affecting passing.
Wow. Now, that's a tremendous stat, and that's one of the more important stats. And I think if you watch him, especially that freshman year, see how sticky he is in coverage, his ability to turn, run with guys, pin them, get his head around, and make a play on the ball. That's tremendous. Let's talk about what all this means as it pertains to his draft stock. All right. So he is a guy who has been, mocked in either in the top 10 or right around there. I know we've mocked him anywhere between 8 and 13. So one, do you think this day helps his, stock as it pertains to the draft? And if so, where do you foresee him going? I have up here right now some of the teams that pick in around the range. I feel like go maybe 7th to the New York Giants. They are potentially getting rid of Bradbury. If they do that, will they be in the market to just immediately replace him with someone that is younger and a cheaper option? You have the Seahawks at 9. I'll be curious to see if they do that because this is a team that they have that threshold with the arm length, and maybe they're getting away from it now. We'll see. I mean, that was something with the Rich Sherman and the Brandon Browners. Last year, they had DJ Reed playing cornerback. He's like 5'9". All right. Yeah. Also, you have the New York Jets at 10, maybe a team like the Minnesota Vikings at 12 or Texans at 13. I don't foresee him getting past there. And I think as it pertains to the betonline.net, his over-under is right around 13.5. So do any of those teams sound good to you? Giants, Seahawks, Jets, Vikings, or Texans?
I'm with you on the arm length teams that we've seen in the past be kind of sticklers for that. I would like to see him go somewhere outside of that. I think 13 is probably the bottom as well. I think what today's testing does for them is just assure that wherever you had him on film, you can be comfortable because he's testing in an adequate way. And I do really think that, yes, he's been cleared from the Liz Frank, but there's more. I mean, that's hard to train. I think he's got more upside athleticism in him than he tested today, even though he tested pretty well. So this makes me feel pretty comfortable. Okay, he's got his baseline athleticism back, and now we can build from there as he learns as well. So for me, I think this could make anybody that's maybe ahead of them, maybe 7. I like the idea of the Giants especially if they let go of Bradbury, who is pretty long-limbed. So that is a difference. But I like that direct replacement, put him in, let him go, let him be an alpha in that backfield. I think that could be useful.
Right. And if so, they got a tremendous cornerback. Can't wait to see where he gets going and how more of the talk kind of picks up around Derek Stingley and where people feel like he'll go. But coming up next, we're going to profile another guy who just had a pro day. And how does that affect potentially his draft stock? Cam Thomas out of San Diego State, edge rusher. Can't wait to get to him. I know that's one of Ryan Tracy's guys. But first, definitely want to talk to you a little bit about betonline.net. And it has to be your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports information. Find all the latest sports developing, including, this week's Masters, championship odds, podcasts and reviews, and all the different leagues this season. I told you about the draft, told you about Derek Stingley in this spot right now. So around 13.5. Do you want to bet the over or under? Where do you think Derek Stingley is going to go? If he goes anywhere where we think, then I think you need to go with the under on him. All right, BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head over right now to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action going on right now. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. We want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen every day. And for your second listen, make sure that you go over to Locked On NFL. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So all right, Ryan, talking about Cameron Thomas, and you've been really high on this guy. And so I have some notes on him. Yeah. And you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong with some of the things I'm seeing and then where you think he either benefits. We could talk about some of his pro day numbers, how those things kind of help him. Good three cone, you compare his three cone to another player that's more of an elite athlete out there. But Cameron Thomas, San Diego State, I put on a couple films. And one thing that I realized right away, he is a guy that loves to engage first. Mm-hmm. Like he didn't come off to me as a guy that is trying to win off of the edge with speed, dip that shoulder, get skinny, really win with bend. It's more engage, bull rush, put his head in guy's chest, knock him back. Then he'll work his arms from there. I really liked how I saw how active he was, where it's like, one time you see him line up, he's more of like a 3-4 in. Then next time you see him line up, he's a 4-3 in. You'll see him run as a rush as a 3 tech. And everywhere he lined up, there was one thing that was very clear. Very active, really good motor, would chase guys down from backside, didn't give up on plays at all. And, I thought he was very stout against the run from all areas and really worked to be strong from that standpoint. So what were some of the things that you saw from Cam Thomas?
I think you nailed all the highlights because that's the big thing. He reminds me of a couple of years ago, the mush rush we saw in New England, right? He can line up all the way into the 3 tech. I've seen him go wide 9. He can do a little bit of it all, but you're right. He's a physical guy. He's not trying to blow past you. He's trying to go right through your chest plate and get to that quarterback, maybe drag you along the way is what he's looking to do. I am really impressed with him, though, because he moves like a guy that's smaller than him. And I don't mean just by weight, because he only came in at, 267 there at the combine. So it is not very different from, say, Trayvon Walker. But he feels wider. He's got that. Maybe it's the shoulder pads. I don't know. But, it's harder for him to fit through small spaces, yet he bulldozes through them. He's better with his hand counters than I think most people expect. He's very active with that. And I think that bodes well for what he can do in a number of different ways. Is he going to be that flash off the edge guy? No. But he's going to crush that pocket. And if you don't give him the respect he deserves, he's going to swim over you and he's going to be in that quarterback's face. You're going to be hurting for it. So I really like his fit. I think everyone's sleeping on him a little bit, especially given that he can corner when he has to. I really think that this pro day, especially as we get more and more of the numbers, I've gotten a few from folks that were supposedly there, but I can't confirm them. So it looks better and better as I get more data.
Yeah, so some of the numbers on him, his official height, 6'4.5", 265 pounds, which is legit. The vertical jump, 33.5, which is definitely, really good, especially for a bigger guy like him. Broad jump, 9'2", not too much worried about that. But here's where it really stood out as it pertains to his testing. 6.91 in his 3 cone. I mean, we just talked about Derek Stingley Jr., who was 6.98. So his
right, and I actually have 6'8", so I have it a little bit better. That's what's crazy. If he can out corner Derek Stingley in a 3 cone, what does that tell you?
Yeah. So the lateral agility and ability is definitely there. You talked about just kind of the strength and brute that he played with. That was there. I watched him split double teams. You talked about the swim move. Saw him utilize that to split double team a couple times from rushing through the interior. And that's really good for a guy who, getting at 265, especially with how tall he is, that's not like the biggest of guys. Right? I mean, we see edge rushers at 6'3", Nick Bosa. I don't want to compare to Nick Bosa, who's the number 2 overall pick, but that's 6'3", 265 pounds. So, Cameron Thomas is taller and probably a little bit leaner from that sense, just in the sense of, the weight and how he's kind of stretched out, but is able to play as more of that big body type guy anywhere he lines up. Where do you see him really excelling at the next level in the NFL?
Really, for me, it's going to be in the packages where he's got a true edge outside of him and he can come in a little bit. I don't want to see them put him in a 3-4-5 tech all the time and be a base end in a 3-man front, because I think that just wears on him and having to deal with doubles all day. I don't want to see that. So I don't care if you wind him up at a 7 or you put him in over the guard, for all I care. I think he can make hay either way. The question is going to be is what else are you doing? He does need a bookend. If he's the guy that somebody can concentrate on your sliding protection to, that's not really going to bode very well. He's not that explosive, get into the backfield under 2 seconds kind of guy, but he's going to walk that tackle into the quarterback's lap. Or as soon as he gets him on his heels, he'll swim by. I've seen him rip pretty well. He doesn't have like a cross chop or any of the more advanced, like super speedy edge type moves. I think that's in the making though, because he's got the physical tools. So I think, should he get with somebody that's looking to develop an edge as well, that's going to be key for him and really making a mark. People comparing to Sam Hubbard, I think he's got more upside than that.
Well, yeah, Sam Hubbard, I like that comparison. He doesn't have to be that speedy guy off the edge now. I think he's coming into the NFL at the perfect time. This is at a time where a lot of teams are going too high defenses, quarters, maybe some cover 2, depending on the scheme. And they are actually counting on having a big end. So they will have the speed guy off the edge, the bendy guy coming across around the corner right now. But especially on early downs, they need that guy that's stout versus the run on the outside, who can kind of hold that edge, be good there, but also bring you pass rush ability. So I think he fits more of where the NFL is going now, with teams trying to take away those deep crossers on big early down play action passes. So from that standpoint, I think he's going to be all right not having to be that speed guy. Do you see him as a fit for the Kansas City Chiefs, who you covered?
Honestly, he's probably a prime fit because of what Steve Spagnuolo wants to do. And it is exactly that. Crush the pocket, man the edge, set the edge in the run game. And honestly, I think after a season, maybe by season 3, he's going to be a guy that's not only going to do those things as a 4-man front end, he's also going to demand a chip. And now you're taking a route out of that play. And I think that's important as well. That is something I think can affect the entire defense in a positive way that people don't really think about from where he is right now in the defense that he played in.
And where do you expect him to potentially get drafted?
It could be as high as 29-30 to the Chiefs. I think that fit is there. I do expect it to be in the top 50. I think he's earned that grade. It's just a question of if everybody else gets their other things taken care of, because I don't think he's the flash like Trayvon Walker, obviously like Hutchinson, etc. There are a couple other guys, Jeremiah Johnson. I think he's a better end in a 4-man front than Karlaftis is, but I think Karlaftis has better strength competition, etc. I think he might get a little bit lofty there. I actually have those two inverted on my board.
And another guy that is potentially not just a top 50 pick, but potentially a top 10 pick. It's being mocked there. Drake London. What's the outlook on him with his pro day being pushed back to April 15th? We're going to talk about that and more as it pertains to him and his draft stock next. So wide receiver out of USC, Drake London. And I mean, the measurables are all there. We're talking about a guy who is just a shade under 6'4", 220 pounds, has a nice wingspan, 33-inch arm length. This guy with a basketball background. All those things are very intriguing. I think the thing that kind of jumps out to people a lot, right? They're going to question the separation ability. But in the NFL, they've been able to kind of free guys up in different ways. And I think one thing that's going to be a little underrated with his game is his ability to win underneath. Now, the issues that he has with separation is vertically down the field. Like if you want him to run a deep comeback and think that he's going to get separation from the cornerback at the top of the route, that's not really his thing. But he can run slants and turn guys around and move them off the line of scrimmage, do those things. And he was a high volume catch guy at USC in the screen game. Now, right now, he's being mocked in the top 10. And I'm not sure I have him quite that high. Some people are having him as high as 10 to the New York Jets. I see tremendous ability, tremendous high point ability, tremendous body control. Maybe not so much the speed of separation. That's a little bit more ideal to be a top 10 pick. But what are you seeing?
I'm pretty much with you. And I know you were really high on him during the season, as you should have been. I think we all should have been. For me, I think what it comes down to is the pushing back of the pro day. Is that just a logistical thing? You couldn't get that figured out? Or is there some kind of reduction in how quickly he's healing? That's going to be the thing for me, because like you said, no one's going to surprise him for a long threat or a guy that's going to get loose at the top of routes 20, 30 yards deep. But what he will do, and what I want to see is there a second way that he can win besides high-punting the ball? In college, you saw him actually have some pretty good short area quickness and be able to come off of routes. And maybe it was only a step or two and the guy's right on his heel, but he was able to get enough to get himself clear with those 33-inch arms. And so for me, I really wanted to see the change of direction drills when he gets on the field, whether it's now or what is it now, the 15th of April, we're expecting that. I think that will go a long way to say, yes, I'm great at doing what I do, but I also have this ability that you have to help me along, because now I'm a full-time football player, and that's new for me. And with the injury, I think there's still a lot of upside. That all says to me that I'm probably letting him go outside of the top 12. I think it all becomes a matter of, does somebody see enough Mike Evans in him that they're willing to forego that and grab him when they have him in the top 10? It's a possibility.
Right. I think another guy that might help him is probably like T. Higgins, right? You look at T. Higgins, who came out a year ago. Now, when I say might help him, he might hurt him as well, because you were able to grab T. Higgins in the second round at 6'4". So they're about the same height. T. Higgins a few pounds lighter, but that's the comparison right there. T. Higgins didn't run necessarily, very well. 40-yard dash. It was okay, but not blowing anybody away. I think that's more of who he is. But the thing that helps him is the success that T. Higgins has had in the NFL. And I don't think T. Higgins should play faster really on film. It was around the same. And I mean, you can see it in different ways, especially with Drake London and his run after catch ability, which again might be more underrated. Doesn't really do it quite with speed, but definitely does it with strength and power, breaking tackles and those type of things, swift movements. You talk about the basketball background. I think those swift movements have definitely kind of carried over, but there are certain guys that have a similar skill set. And I think that potentially can kind of help him, at least in the eyes of everyone, and maybe in the eyes of people that are mocking him in the top 10.
Well, I think the differentiator too is his build. Like, he might be the same height, close to the same weight as T. Higgins, but I see him much thicker in terms of his ability, shoulder protection, to be able to ward off contact, keep himself from getting bodied up or let guys come through his back, wrap around and try to knock the ball out like that. Like, I see him as a much stronger person at the point, not just his ability to go up and get the ball at the catch point.
So let's say he doesn't go top 10. You start looking at the other teams, and we'll say from 20 to 30, because I think that might be kind of more in his range, or maybe he can go a few picks earlier. I mean, is he a guy that can maybe go as high as 17 to the LA Chargers? I almost called them San Diego Chargers. LA Chargers, maybe the Saints. I mean, they'll be in the market for a receiver. Some of these other teams for sure, the New England Patriots. I kind of write him off of Green Bay's board because they're looking for more of a speedster. Maybe Dallas Cowboys. I mean, where is he going to go? And he's not just fighting with some of the speedsters. There are other guys that have a similar skill set that show that they can run, like a George Pickens. So when you see George Pickens, what he's bringing, he ran a 4.47 at the combine. Is that something that could potentially make Drake London slide down a little bit?
I don't think so, because at the end of the day, you go back to the film and you see dominance from Drake London. I don't know that you could say you see that from Pickens, even when before he was ever injured. Like, he was good, but you didn't see that just 15 catches in a ball game, because you got to feed him, whether it was Slovis or whether it was the youngster Dart. It didn't matter who the quarterback was. You had to feed him. And that, I think, pays off. And I think that pays off for coaches as well, because you can be a crutch. I know that the Packers want speed, but I got to tell you, I think it's a great place for them, because you need 2 or 3 receivers in Green Bay. You can't just get pigeonholed with trying to get speed. And they have a decent amount of picks in this draft. They can come back with somebody else that is meant to be the stretcher. But if you need to move this offense, I think that's what you have to rely on. And maybe you get a little bit more run game. Maybe Drake London fits in as like kind of that slot big man that I think they can use really effectively in Green Bay. I love that fit for him.
Which he did play a lot of slot in 2020. So 2021 was more of a primarily an outside receiver, but definitely showed that inside ability when they had guys like St. Brown over there. So there you go. You see where our guy Drake London is going. Ryan Tracy just mocked him to the Green Bay Packers, or at least gave his pitch for him to go to Green Bay and make Aaron Rodgers a little happier.
I did mock him there on Monday too.
Okay, see, there we go. So I like it. He loves it. And we hope you love it. We thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Tomorrow, we'll be right back, digging into more prospects, maybe doing a little bit of mock draft, all that good stuff and more. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find us there, Locked On NFL Draft. Hit the like button, all that good stuff. If you're listening to on the platform, send us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Or let us know on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Eric_Crocker and at Ryan Tracy NFL. But that's going to do it for this episode. We will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.